our stuff from Instagram and we moved over here to this new format in the hopes that More Than Mind will reach more people and be more convenient based on so much of the feedback that we got from so many of you that you want to take Dr. Shaheem on the go with you and listen to her in the middle of the night. So here we are, a recorded version. Dr. Shaheem, good to see you.
Great to see you, Shelley, as always. And I think that it's been wonderful, the sort of response that we've received from our friends and from the people who join us on our Instagram, and the questions that we've received. And we're delighted to be able to offer this platform for a deeper conversation and more topics, and in a different platform.
I remember when we started this, and I would just want to take a moment as our first recorded episode on here to let people know our plan, that we went from talking and connecting through social media and then coming up with this great idea to do More Than Mind. And that's where More Than Mind was born. It was an opportunity for us to sit down and have these conversations about our hearts, our minds. I'm a huge advocate for taking care of your up here. I always say, just like you get your teeth cleaned and you go get your heart checked, you got to get your brain checked as well. And that was where More Than Mind was born, then going live on Instagram, and now up here on recorded sessions as well. So look how much has changed, Dr. Shaheem, in just the past few months.
I know, absolutely. And, you know, it's, you and I are doing our part, not only to raise awareness, but to raise acceptance. I think there's been many decades of people raising awareness. We'll continue to do so, but we also need to enter a new era of discussion. And this new era is we need to become much more accepting, much more aware, and understand the ins and outs of the connectivity between mental health and physical health and the impact it has on our day-to-day life. So, you know, we will take different subjects and different topics that's relevant to people, and we will try and unravel and unpack those topics each time we meet so that we're able to perhaps you know, shed some more light on and to suggest practical tools so people have, are able to, you know, experience a more smoother journey.
How we envision More Than Mind now was that we're going to do a few pre-recorded sessions that we will do here. They will now live on YouTube. They will go up on audio podcasts for you so you can listen while you're on the go. They'll be uploaded to Instagram TV. And then once a month, Dr. Shaheem has been gracious enough to give me even more of her time. And at the end of the month, we will do a live to talk about all the episodes that we have released within the previous month. So if you have questions or things that you want to dive more into, she's always open on her Instagram that you can reach out to her. But that live that we do once a month now, at the end of the month, we'll go into a little bit more depth and just answer any of your questions. So thank you for doing this.
With pleasure, with pleasure. I think it's a good format.
We're talking today about something that is near and dear to my heart. It's probably good 30 to 40% of the questions I get from people is, how the heck are you so motivated every single day? Or messages from people saying, Shali, I can't find the motivation. So today we're gonna dedicate this next block of time to just talk all about motivation. What is motivation?
What is motivation? Well, I love that you started with that question of how do you get your motivation and where does it come from? Imagine that we're sitting together and having coffee. How would you answer that question, Shelley? Where does your motivation come from?
My motivation comes for a love of life. My love of life every day. I wake up I'm excited for a new day, even if I have bad days. And more than anything, Dr. Shaheem, for me personally, given the career field I am in, I see so much people's lives changing on a minute-to-minute basis that in some ways they are my forms of motivations to wake up every day and to really embrace life every day.
Right, right. So there's a sort of internal mechanism at play here, and then there's an external mechanism at play here, right? And so those are the two things we need to think about when we unravel and try and understand what motivation is. If you look at the origins of the word motivation, it comes from the Latin word movere, and representing a driving force that drives behavior, right? It is this force, it's this energy that pushes us to do something or not do something, right? It is the fuel that gets us off that couch and excited about getting engaged in various activities. It is what makes us jump out of bed every day to be able to have a more meaningful existence. It is what creates a situation where people don't have anxiety Sunday nights, or they don't dread Sunday because it's the day before the Monday where they have to go to a job that they don't derive any kind of pleasure or satisfaction from, right? We want to understand, what is it? Why are there some individuals who don't have that kind of feeling or that kind of dysfunctional sentiment the day before? How is it that they are moved into this driving force of behavior? So it's complex, it's hard to understand, but the more we become aware of it, the more we know how to harness it and to understand it. And we can't talk about motivation without talking about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Okay, this may be familiar to some people, it may be absolutely new to others. And Maslow Abraham Maslow was a psychologist, and he developed one of the first theories of motivation. And so he suggested that us humans are first motivated to satisfy our basic needs. He said our needs are arranged in a nice sort of pyramid hierarchy. Okay, and each of these needs have to be activated on each level before we can move on to the higher level. And there's 5 needs that he talks about. So the first one, if you imagine Maslow's hierarchy of needs, he talks about the various needs that need to get activated, and we move up accordingly on those needs. The first one is physiological needs. Okay, and physiological needs is basic issues of survival, such as, food, thirst, hunger. How many times have you been in a situation where you've been hangry? Do you know, have you heard that expression before?
I think if you look up my middle name, sometimes it's hangry.
Right? So this combination of hungry and angry, because you know what? Sorry, I can't talk to you until I eat something. I can't concentrate. I can't focus. I need to go to the bathroom. Give me 5 minutes because my physiological senses demand that I take care of that before I can have this conversation. What about sleep, Shelley? How many times are we in situations where we haven't had enough sleep from the night before, right? And so Maslow says, look, before you try and reach these, talk about purpose and passion and aesthetics and so on and so forth, you better have your physiological needs met before we can move up to the next level. What's the next level? Security needs. That means things like shelter, physical and emotional, environmental sort of variables. do I feel safe in my family? Do I feel safe at my job? Do I feel there's a sense of security and stability in my relationships? Or do I have these sort of uncertain and ambiguous attachments to what I do? So security needs financial security, relationship security, intimacy-related security needs, very, very important. The third one is belongingness needs, okay? The sense of belongingness. And you can now see how important this issues of diversity, inclusion, and belonging is, that it stems from our deepest foundational needs hierarchy systems for them to be fulfilled. And when we say our sense of belongingness, this is social acceptance. It's issues such as friendship, cooperation on the job, being accepted. On one of our lives when we were discussing this together, I shared a sentence with you, and I think it resonated really well with you and some of our listeners. And that was, if you don't belong, don't belong. You don't stay too long there, because what happens is that you're not able to then evolve further if your sense of belongingness, if you feel rejected, if you don't feel like your values align with the values of other people, if you don't derive any kind of satisfaction or fulfillment from the activities that you're involved in. That was the third level. So remember, we had physiological needs, we have security needs, we've got belongingness needs, and then we've got esteem needs, okay? And esteem needs is these ideas of positive self-image, you know, the respect and recognition, that you have status, confidence, that once you have the foundational levels activated and achieved, you can go on to looking at, you know, am I confident? Do I feel a sense of fulfillment and security, as well as respect for who I am and what I do? And finally, at the point of the pyramid, Maslow says we have self-actualization, okay? And this is, you know, some people will call it self-actualizations, other people will call it nirvana. You know, it's the point at which you have this sense of fulfillment and achievement, that I am at the pinnacle of my point of happiness, as well as functionality with my health and well-being, okay? Other people might talk about it differently. I want to introduce you also to another person, a psychologist. His name is Mihai Csikszentmihalyi. He's a psychologist from Romania.
Okay.
And I'm not sure if you've ever heard of this concept of flow. Have you heard of flow?
I feel like I have.
I think, like, let me unpack it for you a little bit. So flow is this, people who are artists, actors, painters, dancers, athletes will say that they get into the state when they're engaging in doing work that they love, where they're almost hypnotized. They lose a sense of time and place, and they're so engrossed and so ingrained in what they're doing that they have it's a euphoric feeling of self-actualization, as well as an intense feeling of happiness. And if you look at it on a graph, how do you reach flow? You reach flow when the task that you're engaged in fulfills your passion, what you're passionate about, and it's challenging enough. So on the left axis, what you're passionate about, what you're good at, and on the bottom side, on the bottom axis, it's how challenging it is. Mm-hmm. So at the intersection of what you love doing and that it's challenging you, that's the sweet spot of motivation and flow that we find ourselves in. Maybe you've heard runners talk about this. They say, you know, once I get into running, the runner's high, and then I just lose myself within that feeling.
Okay.
So here's the central point. of why this is important. A lot of people, Shelley, wait for motivation to dawn on us.
Right.
If only I feel motivated to run. If only I feel motivated to start a new career. If only when that motivation will come and visit me. It doesn't work that way. You got to start running to be able to experience that sentiment and that feeling, to have a connectivity with those feel-good emotions, for you to then get attached and introduced to what the feel-good factor of doing something that brings you to life.
So you saying that that motivation doesn't happen until you do?
Absolutely. So one of the biggest mistakes people make is they wait around for motivation to happen. Next week, I'll start the diet next week, maybe the week after. I'll start working out in 2 weeks. But you know what? You have got the best time to start is the time in which you don't want to start, because that's the point at which, when you start seeing results and sensing results, and the sort of positive hormones and the positive feelings that you experience due to you starting, that's what will keep the behavior reinforced.
Yes.
It's not repetition.
Yes. Yeah. That makes so much sense. Now that I've never looked at it that way, that until you do and you are in that moment, that's when the motivation kicks in.
Correct. And it's the doers. You ask anyone, you speak to anyone, people like yourself. That's why I asked you to start talking about this. It's the people who do, then who experience those sentiments, who get reinforcement, positive reinforcements for what they're doing, that they remain motivated.
Oh, why is that so simple, but we make this so difficult?
You know why? Because it's pages and pages and pages and books and books and books about so many things. But what we're going to do with More Than Mind is to just take these nuggets of empirical data,
yes,
of practical tools, and say, the minute you get out of bed and you've scheduled yourself with a personal trainer, or you've made a commitment to work out, and your brain's trying to tell you, no, don't do it, it's okay, tomorrow you'll feel more motivated. That's the point that you say, be quiet, I'm going to start doing it, and when I do it, that fuel will take over and I'll feel so much better afterwards.
Yeah, I gotta work on that be quiet part.
We gotta silence that critic, because you know why? We're pleasure seeking and pain aversive.
Yes,
human beings. But you get the hits of dopamine and you get those feel good stuff once you start. You're not going to get it thinking about it, Shelley. If you're thinking about it, you're thinking, oh my God, my body's going to hurt. This is hard work. You're going to come up with every reason why you shouldn't do it.
Right.
Okay. Not every reason why you should do it. Okay. And at that moment, when you're engaging in this negative self-talk, I want to ask you a question. Tell me if you relate to these 5 points.
Okay.
Right? When motivation is conceived, we start having a conversation with ourselves. And it begins with the first question: can I do it? Okay? Am I competent enough? Can I do it? And your answer should be, of course you can do it. You can do anything you put your mind to it. Your brain will try and talk you out of it. Okay? But the brain needs to hear that, yes, you can do it. Second question we want to know, will I succeed? Well, you're never going to know unless you try. You got to try it. You got to do it. Third question, why should I do it? Why should I do it? What's my purpose? What's the why in what I do? And if I asked you, what's the why in what you do? You're not going to tell me, I derive so much satisfaction at being a news anchor, right? You're going to tell me a much more profound and deeper reason as to what's the why in what you do. Think about that for a second. What is the purpose in what you do each morning?
Are you asking me? Is this where I answer? I love to tell the stories of people, and I am so connected with people, just so connected, and to be able to tell their stories is why I wake up in the middle of the night.
Right.
To do what I do.
Exactly. Right. And that's what it's not about the mechanical or the practical aspect of it. It's that, why should I do it? Oh my goodness, I connect people. I tell stories. I introduce important topics, and I educate. Okay. The next point is, why should I keep doing it? Why should I continue?
For me, because it's working.
It's working. I'm growing. I'm evolving. I'm contributing. I'm making a difference in this world. Right? And final point is, I choose to do it and I want to do it.
And I love to do it.
I love to do it. I choose to do it. I'm in control. We need to know that we have autonomy in this decision-making process, that it's not dictated to us. You know, Shelley, I can't tell you the number of students in my 20 years of working in university settings. I have a number of students who would start university, and they would sign up for a program or a major that their mother and father thought they should study. These poor kids in the first semester, second semester, almost failing, barely passing, C's and D's. And whenever I'd call them into my office and say, what's going on? Let's have a conversation about this. The bottom of it wasn't they were late. It wasn't that they were lazy. It wasn't that they weren't studying. It was that they would say, Dr. Shaheem, I'm not interested in this subject. I don't connect with it. Somebody else wants me to study this. And as soon as we'd have the conversation with their parents and they would change majors, straight A student, 4.0 GPA, they would fly. And they would do incredibly well, right? So going back to our conversations always about self-awareness, who are you? What do you love to do? Why do you love to do what you love to do? You know, what is your purpose? And how can we tap into that? Because there are times in which motivation comes as a result of your passion and your purpose and what you're good at and what you love to do. And then there are times when you just have to start, and then your body's positive response to it and the recognition and the reward that you get will keep you motivated. Right? But don't set unrealistic and wrong goals. Don't do it for the wrong reasons. When I ask this question of why am I doing it? If you're doing it for the money, guess what? After a while, that depreciates. If you're working out only for a six-pack and not for your health and well-being, and not as a lifestyle change, when you're not looking like those edited magazines covers, you're going to stop wanting to work out. And that's when you've got to reset your expectations to understand, to ask yourself again, why am I doing it?
Based on what you just explained, I look at my own life, and I was that person, by the way. I went to law school for 3 months, and I went for my husband, who was then my boyfriend, and a whole host of reasons. And I am so thankful I left, because it wasn't what I wanted to do. And I was that unhappy person. And I said, I can't do this. It's not who I am. So I feel like as I'm learning about this motivation, and people constantly send messages, how are you so motivated? How do you do what you do every day? You just made it like so simple for me to understand where my motivation comes from. I could feel it, but I do what I love every single day, whether it's being a mom to 4 kids, doing the news anchoring thing, running all over the place on social media. It's something that I love. Therefore, I feel motivated. Like you explained, I see the results. It motivates me to do more. So
Right.
to my question is that I get the questions of how do you do what you do? I need some of your motivation.
Yeah.
What do we tell those who say, I'm not motivated? Or where do I start? Or how can I get it? I know you've explained it. My light bulb moments went on. I'm like, oh, okay, I get it now. You made it so simple. But we're telling them now, what? You can't just hand it. It's not like in a packet where you open it and you pour it in a drink and there you go. You have motivation.
Yeah. Okay. So it starts with doing a deep dive into what's important to you and who you are. 2 things, who you are and what's important to you. I want people to think about what you enjoy doing. Think about moments in which, in the past, in the present, what are those moments in which you're in that you come alive? Is it when you're surrounded with people? Is it when you are working alone? Really identify what are those moments that I really enjoy. Second thing, think about activities and actions, behaviors that align with your values and belief systems. You've got to know what your values are. You've got to know what your belief system is, and then engage in activities that align with those. If they are in contradiction with your value systems and your belief systems, it's just, you're not going to be motivated to contribute or to give, okay? Have awareness about your natural skills and abilities. Now, I'm not saying people come into this world ready-made with certain natural skills and abilities, but there may be a sort of predisposition that, for example, if I have a talent for singing, if I have a talent for instruments, playing the instrument, and it just comes natural to me. You see that there are some people, swimming, athletics, numbers. There are people who are a lover of numbers, right? So understand what it is that you have a passion for, that you enjoy, that align with your values, and also that there might be that you've demonstrated a natural talent for. And then think about your flow state. You see, Shali, when I look at you and you play music, when you're playing music and you're connecting people, that's your flow state. You're not aware of the camera. You're aware of the camera when your husband is taking pictures, because I can see the love in your eyes, the way in which you're communicating to him. But it's just him really that you're thinking about. You're in that flow state of experiencing the joy associated with either introducing others to the world, or introducing a thought or a concept, or bringing your aspects of your life to other people as a sort of model. You're modeling the way of how things could be. And we don't always have great days. You demonstrate that as well. And a lot of people have perfection paralysis. They think that they're waiting for that perfect moment to start that diet, to get that gym membership, to change their job, that perfect moment never happens.
Never.
Right? It's an excuse. you've got to get mobilized. You have to dive into it. And once you dive into it, sometimes it works, sometimes it may not work, but you'll never know until you try. And it's only when you try in a learned way, right? When you do your homework, when you dive in deep and have more self-awareness about your values, your belief systems, your natural talent, dispositions, what you love, what gives you joy, then you realize then that's what motivates you.
I'm like motivated to do 500 more sessions of More Than Mind. Did we unpack this? Are we good? Are we good with motivation?
We're good.
I really do feel motivated on this day, and you turned on a lot of, I call them, and I learned this from you, I will never say a light bulb, I always say life bulb. It's what I've learned from you, and I hope that this conversation helps people understand that that motivation is not something that you can pass like a piece of paper. It's what I'm taking away from this is that when you do, that motivation will follow afterwards. So you've got to start doing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And reset your expectations. Don't have unrealistic expectations because that won't keep you on track. Kill the limiting beliefs. Get rid of fear of failure. Okay? Forget about the past. Your motivation changes throughout a lifetime. What you were not motivated about in your 20s doesn't mean you won't be motivated in your 40s. Revisit it, try it again, and have clear goals. You don't know what you don't know until you try it.
I love that. That's proven out. If we want to high five this first More Than Mind that we did, how do we do it? Wait. Thank you, Dr. Shaheem. You are the best. You can contact Dr. Shaheem on her Instagram account. It's at Dr. Shaheem. We'll have many more of these episodes coming up for you, and then we'll do a live on Instagram one time a month to answer any of your questions after you follow these sessions. Dr. Shaheem, thank you so much.
Thank you. Take care of you and each other.